Thank you very much for joining. We have today Vedika. Vedika is graduated from University of Massachusetts at Amherst. Agastya is just recently graduated from NYU, and Gargi, who is currently studying at the University of Southern California. And in today's discussion, we'll be talking about the cultural differences, or what is also popularly known as the cultural shock that one experiences once they um, land in the US, and at least during the initial days or maybe even later. So I just wanted to understand from each of you. I mean, once you moved to the from India to the US for your education, what was it that you felt was really, not exactly shock, need not be shocking, but what did you find as the differences in terms of lifestyle, in terms of the whole atmosphere there, or the the whole way, the way I mean, the Americans live their life, and between you when you're being used to the Indian environment, what did you feel was the major difference that you experienced? Anybody can go first. I mean, whoever.
I can go first.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Go
Uh,
ahead.
so for me here, it is when I came, it was really weird to see how much people leave you alone. So India, it wasn't really everybody was always involved in each other's lives. But when I came here, it was although I had a lot of Indian friends, I also have a lot of friends from other nationalities. But even Indians here tend to sort of leave you alone and everyone is doing their own thing. So that was a big culture shock for me that sometimes people don't necessarily like to get involved in each other's lives. And it tends to get a little lonely because of that sometimes. So my first 2 weeks, that is what I experienced. But I mean, it got better because I had a big friend group and everybody supported each other and friends become family here. But still, for the first 2 weeks, that was a big change for me that I used to meet friends every day. I used to meet people every day. But coming here, it was probably once a week. So that was a big change for me.
Okay. How about you, Agastya Gargi?
Yes. So, like Vedika said, the other side of it is that uh, here I think we have to be much more independent than what we were back in India. And especially because I directly joined my master's after my undergrad. So I didn't have a phase where I worked and I had to take care of myself full time. Because even through college, cooking wasn't an issue, laundry wasn't an issue. I had my hostel things going on. But whereas here, you have to tackle your studies along with all these other stuff, which is you have to fend for yourself, you have to cook, you have to clean everything. So these changes where these are, I think this was a pretty big change for me because for the first 21, 22 years of my life, all these were taken care of and I had to just focus on what I had to do. But here it's like 60-40, 60% you can focus on your studies, but the rest is your livelihood. So I think for me, this independence was a big, I wouldn't say shocking change. I knew I had to do this, but it took some time for me to get adjusted to this, like a couple of weeks, a month tops.
Okay. And how about you, Gargi?
So building on top of what Vedika and Augusta said, in the sense that you are pretty much left alone, but there is a flip side to the independence and the leaving you alone, and that is the society as a whole is very extroverted. They kind of like to make small talk quite a bit, and whenever you want to get something done, you don't just like get to the point. You have to navigate a little bit with the small talk. How was your day? Like things like that.
Okay.
Maybe make a couple of jokes, and then you get on to getting your things done. So,
Okay.
in that sense, it's a bit of a, I would say, a dichotomy of sorts where you are left alone, but then once you step out of the house to get things done for yourself, you just need to be very talkative.
Right.
So, yeah, in that sense, it's a very different society. And that is how you build networks, and that is how you also make friends, to be fair.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Gargi, let me just ask you that as a person, how do you
Mhm.
consider you always considered yourself more as an introvert or an extrovert?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I do consider myself an introvert.
Okay.
So yeah, that came as a bit of a shock to me.
Okay. So it
Not a
was
shock as such,
yes.
but like a learning curve, more of.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then again coming to the the academic environment rather in class or probably since you all did your of course undergrads in India. So and I mean all your education was in India. So going to and sitting in a US classroom, how different was it from the Indian classroom environment? I mean, of course, it would be each of your experiences would be different, but then again, how different did you feel was the US academic environment versus the Indian classroom environment?
Um, I can go first. So I think in broad strokes, here the professors encourage a lot more collaboration, at least in my experience, than what I had in the Indian education system. I think that's a good thing because it's more they give you a general direction and then you have to figure it out by yourself. The flip side again is that if you can't figure it out, uh, you might feel a little left out. But then you have, because everyone in the whole batch is almost in the same boat, you kind of talk and you figure it out. And I think it's more collaborative compared to Indian classrooms, and much more, for the lack of a better word, independent, because the professors are not very stringent on following their specific rules. They give you a general direction and then you can explore.
Hmm. And how were your experiences, Gargi and Vedika?
So, for me also, what Agastya said actually rings are very true, because for me, in a way, it was easier to navigate through it, because in India we go through like a very rigorous sort of exam process, but at the same time we only have exams at the end of each term. But here it is every single week you have to be on top of it. Every single week you have to put in those many efforts, and a lot of professors encouraging you to navigate your own path. So you have to figure it out yourself. If you can't, they're always ready to help you, but
Okay.
they expect you to figure it out yourself and then come to them with answers, with questions, and asking them more questions.
Okay.
So that is something that I really enjoyed for myself, because I was in the management side of things. So be collaborating with people, getting to know different people and how everyone works differently. Even the professors, some were not as nice, but at the same time, you tend to learn how to navigate those people as well.
You're right.
But for me, I found it a little easier to gel in, because I'm a good mix of introvert and extrovert. So I like talking to people. So it helped me. My learning was through talking to people, and I liked it.
Okay.
Very different than India, though. That people should understand. It is very different than India. Every single week you have to study. You have to do assignments. So it's not just you can't slack.
Okay. So and Gargi, how was your experience?
So what I observed as a big difference is that professors here, they dictate how they will take their classes. They make their syllabus. They decide on how they want to run their classes. They decide on how they want their TAs to be and what extent of help should be provided.
Right.
So, like, there are guidelines by the department and the university, of course, but a large how do I put this? Like, power lies with the professor himself or herself, and they are the ones who are running the show. So,
Yes.
like, both of them said that you have to be on top of things all the time. You absolutely cannot slack. You fall behind, and it just like sets off domino that then you'll have to work very, very hard to come back from.
Okay.
And like the good thing about this is that like these guys said, you are encouraged to be independent. So you have to work behind the scenes quite a lot to
Mm-hmm.
complete your assignments, your labs, study for your exams, and whatnot. So, yeah.
Right. So coming on that note, right? I mean, generally, what happens is when I speak to students in India, and I try to explain them the education system in the US, and I tell them that okay, you would be taking 9 or 12 credits per semester, and mm, and when they ask me what is 9 or 12 credits, I mean, I tell them that you would have, if it's a 9 credit course, you will have 9 hours of classroom time in that semester per week, kind of, or if it's 12 credits, and the first reaction is that oh, only 12, or only I could go 15, I could go 18. We are used to 40 hours of classroom. Sometimes at your undergrad level, you almost study 30 to 35, sometimes even for some cases even 40 hours of classroom time in a week. So but then I try to explain that although it's 12 hours, it doesn't mean that's less workload. That's going to be substantial workload, and I don't think you should go more than 12. Of course, that is each individual's personal call. But what was your experience when you probably thought, okay, there's 12 hours of class? I mean, how many credits did generally you guys have in a semester? 9, 12?
Yeah, so it was either for at least at NYU, you have to take 9. You can take 10.5, but if you want to take 12, you have to get written consent from the department saying that okay, this is being done on the student's discretion. We are not forcing him to, because at least the way our professors and I discussed it was, for every hour you put in the classroom, you need to put at least 3 hours outside the classroom, or two minimum. So a 12 credit essentially translates to 36 hours of your time in a week. Um, I guess the good thing about it also, like going back to the previous question, is that because you have so many things each week, it's a little less cutthroat than the Indian system, where not everything hinges on just the midterm or the end term. Even if you falter in one test or one quiz, you can cover it up, but it's not as easy as 12 hours in class and that's it. The rest of my week is free. It's not at all that. Uh, I think it's much better this way, because one, it forces you to study all through the semester so that you need not go into super stressful modes during the midterms. And secondly, again, self-learning is a huge part here, and because you do that self-learning spread out over the 8 or 10 or 12 weeks, you need not cram it with a night before the exam. So it's much more. I think you learn more and you retain a lot more over the course of a semester.
Okay. How about you guys? You also had the similar experiences?
Yeah. So for me, we were not allowed to take less than 6 credits, and you could take 12 credits. But if we did, our program advisor used to personally come and talk to us, saying, "Ki, you have taken on quite a bit here." But yeah, for me, an important aspect might be here. Of course, you have to put in a lot of time. So you have to put in at least 2 hours outside the classroom. And a lot of my classes involved a lot of classwork as well, which had to be submitted within 2 hours of the class ending. So that also you have to sort of navigate that. So it is not just 12 hours of classroom time. It's going to be 12 extra additional hours of doing homework or assignments or just completing the classwork.
Okay.
And another aspect I will also add here is, if you do decide to do a part time job, you have to consider that as well, other than just studying.
Right.
So that's also going to cut into your study time in essentially. So that is also something that you should consider, because people don't understand the credit system until unless you start doing it. So you have to consider your inside hours, outside hours, as well as if you do decide to work those hours as well.
So, I mean, and Gargi, just adding on to that, maybe I want to ask you. So if you do, I mean, both, all three of you, in fact, if you do a part-time job, you take classes, I mean, full-time classes, and then of course you have your personal stuff to take care of, right? Your cooking, laundry, and all that. How hectic does it get, or is still manageable?
So
What do you
it
guys find?
really it really depends on how you schedule your classes.
Okay.
Um, I mean, you have to choose the way that you couple your classes also has to be a little well thought out. That was something that I messed up with in my first semester. I took two really heavy courses, and both of them kept me so busy that I did not do as well as I could probably have if I had taken it with something else.
Okay.
So when you're choosing your courses, just because something looks interesting or it aligns with what you want to do, okay, that is the primary factor, of course. But you also have to take into consideration, like these guys said, inside the class time and outside the class time. On top of that, you're on campus. So it's good to be ambitious with your course load, but it does not serve you well to be over ambitious because you are not doing anybody like yourself any favors by doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add a small point to add on to that. On top of all this, I'm pretty sure you'll have a session on this, but so much of your time goes in applying for internships and jobs, and I really did not factor that time until my second semester. So by second semester, I knew how much time that took. So for third and fourth semesters, I was much more prepared. I put that time aside as well on top of my like TA-ship and then classes and exams and whatnot. But that pretty much takes a huge chunk of your free time as well.
Okay. Right. So basically, it all boils down to effective time management and
Exactly.
factoring all the things that you need to do. And generally, I mean, there's this thing that, I mean, when you have to do everything, laundry gets the least priority. I'm all
I'd
for
say
that.
I'd say folding the clothes after the laundry gets the least
No,
amount.
fold the clothes. I'm sure there are so many who don't even do that. It just goes from the laundry one basket to another. Dirty clothes, clean clothes.
No, I used to, and by the end, probably the last 6 months, I used to try to do laundry every 2 weeks, but I used to pick it up from the dryer, put it on a pile on my bed, until and unless that pile got over and went to the dirty, I never bothered. And as he said, probably the last 6 months, finding a job is going to cut into a lot of time.
Right.
So, although you have to do your part time on some money, you have to study, but getting a applying for jobs and internships is something that people need to factor into the timing as well.
Right. So, with this, we'll take a quick break, and we'll continue this discussion maybe after a while. So, thank you for joining. We'll join back after 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Can we take a quick break because it's almost 12 here,
okay.
and uh, I need to drop off and go to sleep
Okay.
because I have an interview tomorrow as well.
Sure. All the best. So then what we'll do is I'll probably continue this discussion with Agastya and Gargi, and then maybe we'll see when we have another discussion on this topic, right? You can join in there.